U.S. interference in countries that it finds objectionable or just not wanting to be clients of the United States is nothing new. In fact, this has been a staple of their foreign policy for decades, if not for centuries. Now, as times change, so do those tactics. Today, we see many of those interference policies taking form of appearing to be grassroots, and some of them being much more technological. Cuba has been hit with a multitude of fake protests by U.S. assets in the country. The protests began on Sunday in the town of San Antonio de los Banos. At the forefront were rappers and musicians. Florida Senator Marco Rubio even famously claimed that these songs can get you thrown in prison, a claim for which he presented without any evidence. For those new to the issue of Cuba, the protests we are witnessing were started by artists, not politicians. This song, Patria y Vida, powerfully explains how young Cubans feel, and its release was so impactful you will go to jail if you get caught playing it in Cuba. What if I told you that these artists and musicians were people being funded by the United States government? Well, it's not such a far-fetched claim, now is it? The reality that we see today is that a good deal of Cuba's thriving hip-hop community, and there's a very large, very vibrant hip-hop community, that a large part of it is actually funded by the United States to be anti-establishment. Much of it specifically to undermine the revolution itself, and that money is coming directly from the National Endowment for Democracy. As many of you well know, the NED is an organization established by the Reagan administration as a front group for the CIA. Essentially, their function is to funnel money into ideologically opposed countries by fraudulently appearing to be an NGO, looking to foster democracy. The world already knows who the NED are, and it is banned in many countries around the world for just this reason. With regards to the NED, a lot of what we do today was done covertly 25 years ago by the CIA. This is one of the producers of the pro-US anti-revolution propaganda, O'Toole. He's pictured here in Miami's Little Havana neighborhood. One of the projects of the CIA is to be a part of the Cuba Money Project. Now, what it essentially does is fund rappers, musicians, bloggers, journalists, etc. to essentially slander the Cuban government, to accuse them of things which are either not their fault or are completely baseless to begin with. And this has been the U.S. policy for some time. And of course, Cuba is opposed to this, but it continues to be a problem to this very day. According to Mint Press News, a currently active grant offer from the Ned Sister organization, USAID, is offering $2 million worth of funding to groups that use culture to bring about social change in Cuba. Applicants have until July 30th to ask for up to $1 million each. The announcement itself references O'Toole's song, noting, artists and musicians have taken to the streets to protest the government repression, producing anthems such as Patria y Vida, which has not only brought greater global awareness to the plight of the Cuban people, but also serve as a rallying cry for change on the island. This table shows a small sample of who got what money from the CIA to produce anti-revolution music and other assorted media. By no means should you blame the Republicans for this. Earlier this year, the House Appropriations budget set aside $20 million for projects in Cuba under the guise of pro-democracy. Supported is also free enterprise and private business organizations. It also states quite emphatically, none of the funds made available under such paragraph may be used for assistance to the government of Cuba. All of this under the watch of Democratic President Joseph Biden. This is the way of the U.S. empire. This is how it has essentially functioned since its birth. The United States was born as a country who stole land and stole labor. So I don't see why some people would think it's so unbelievable that this sort of thing would happen with other countries. The U.S. projecting this on other countries, trying to steal their land, undermining their democracies, etc. I mean, I really don't have to tell you about the very long history the United States has with going into countries, undermining quite obviously their democratically elected governments in order to forward something that is friendly to U.S. interests. This has been going on for absolute decades. And isn't it just straight up a real telling aspect of capitalism, which constantly reminds us that socialism doesn't work, that it endlessly has to go in and subvert and try to destroy socialism anytime it actually appears? That's very telling. It shows that they know that they're lying. This has absolutely nothing to do with what's good for the Cuban people. If the United States really cared about what was good for the Cuban people, they would never have an embargo on the country to begin with, blocking them from buying food and medicine. You can't claim you care about someone and then stop them from being able to eat and receive medical treatment. Such an idea is wholly facetious. This shows the real face of the U.S. empire and everything it has stood for. And it doesn't matter whether it's Republican or Democrat. That kind of inhumanity is there, will continue to be there, and will always be there as a result. Because that is the very nature of capital. It cannot allow any competing example to exist because it is too dangerous to show the world that we don't need the bosses. We don't need the corporate elite. We do not need the big banks and all of everything they believe in. Everything it is that they tout as being superior is nothing more than a cheap house of cards. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.